Okay, let's talk about the Mavericks after the Kyrie trade. We have a 2 game sample size of Kyrie with Luka. We have a 4 game sample size with Kyrie on the team in general. We'll get into the offense and the defense, and I'm going to try not to overreact to anything, even if, yes, the record with Kyrie and Luka is currently 0-2. I more so just want to talk about what it looks like. Although I will say shout out to Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels for that possession late in the Wolves game that got them the win over Dallas. Anyway, I kind of don't want to spend too much time on just saying, like, yeah, Kyrie and Luka are really good, therefore there's just going to be moments where they're just cooking the defense in simple ISOs or pick and rolls, because we all kind of knew that going into this. But still, that's a luxury that Dallas didn't have to this level a few weeks ago. I mean, Dinwiddie could do it a bit, but he's not Kyrie. That is still nice. But the stuff that I'm most interested in right now is like the way they're spaced out. So for example, there have been some plays where Luka has been in the post and Kyrie has been one pass away pretty much, so like at the top of the key. And that puts the defender, of course, in a difficult situation. We have seen, I will say, a few Kyrie stagger screens sprinkled in here and there, which then might lead to a handoff from like Dwight Powell. I'm going to say that the Luka screening for Kyrie thing is a bit of a process. Like, there's been a few here and there, but it's definitely not been a thing you're seeing possession after possession for him, and that's going to take time. I want to say there's been at least a couple times where like Reggie Bullock has screened for Kyrie, or there's even been like 1 or 2 times where Kyrie set like kind of like a ghost screen for Luka to at least throw something different at the defense. There's been at least one play I remember where Kyrie was by himself on one side of the floor while Luka was running a screen up top, but at least like being a little closer to Kyrie's side of the floor than the opposite side. And then you would have like, I don't know, Josh Green and Reggie Bullock on the opposite side or whatever. And so it puts that defender in kind of a tough spot where it's like, well, you can try to help, but that's Kyrie Irving, man, so good luck to you. I remember one cut that Kyrie had from the top of the key off ball where Luka was on the wing and then McGee screened for Kyrie up top. There's been plays within the chaos of defense trapped Luka, and so then it becomes just a read and react of who's open and whatever. Kyrie's existence within that, just allowing him to attack off the catch or make a tough three or even find Luka again, which happened on one specific one where Christian Wood screened for Luka that I remember. And within this, of course, you know, between Reggie Bullock and Josh Green and Theo Pinson and Frank Ntilikina, Jaden Hardy, McKinley Wright, Tim Hardaway Jr., like these guys, of course, have to make those split-second decisions. And I mean, amongst all that, I think Josh Green, like when he's making his threes, it's like really exciting. I think he's also showing signs of being a connector on offense where he'll keep the thing moving and maybe his pass will lead to the assist, but he doesn't actually get the assist. Not all the time. Sometimes he does find just the open guy on a cut or whatever. And then there's Christian Wood who can finish and he can space the floor out and all that nice stuff. Look, offensively speaking, yes, you are hoping that Reggie Bullock and Dwight Powell and Josh Green and, I mean, hell, Frank Ntilikina's getting minutes right now. Like, you're hoping the rest of the guys can do enough, don't get me wrong. But Luka and Kyrie are so good, I don't think offense is a concern. I mean, I mentioned Hardaway in there, but he's only played 1 game with Luka and Kyrie. For what it's worth, look, very small sample size, 58 minutes, all that stuff. Luka and Kyrie together, they've got an offensive rating of 126. That's a very big number. And yes, I know they passed the ball back and forth to each other a million times on that possession late against the T-Wolves. Again, shout out to Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards, which prompted a whole bunch of discussion who's going to be the guy to take the last shot in that whole spiel. I mean, I think it matters, don't get me wrong, but I also think it's very easy to just go wild with that sort of thing. And it's like, there's 48 minutes of basketball. There's other things to talk about here. And that can segue into the defense conversation, which I do think is the more concerning thing for this team right now. For the season overall, they're 24th in defensive rating. If you want to do it since the deadline, they're also still in the 20s. They lost Finney-Smith. Well, look, they are waiting on Maxi Kleber, but pretty much, man, look, you got Reggie Bullock and Josh Green who can do as much as you can hope for on the ball, where like it'll be Josh Green defending like De'Aaron Fox a lot of the time in that one of the recent Kings games, although Kyrie had a few possessions on him. And for what it's worth, I think Kyrie defensively sometimes gets a little too bad of a rep. Like, don't get me wrong, he has his moments of inconsistency, and because of his size and energy spent on offense, like he can only do so much defensively, I get that, but I think he's a little better than some might give him credit for. Bullock had a few possessions on him, but yeah, and then after that, it's JaVale, Christian Wood, and Dwight Powell in some form of a drop. Like, I've seen JaVale in a deep drop. I've seen Wood and Powell on a slightly higher drop, but still a drop nonetheless. And listen, none of those guys are exactly Dikembe Mutombo. I mean, you can always try playing a more aggressive scheme, playing higher up on screens, but without Kleba, you're pretty thin on the back line if you want to do that. Sometimes they have the guy guarding the ball handler try to deny the screen. Sometimes they try to be a little more aggressive, helping from the corner, if you will. So yeah, they could really use Maxey back, although he's coming back from a hamstring injury, so we'll see there. Should I be intrigued that in that Wolves game in the fourth quarter, as they made their comeback, they were playing small and had no center in the game? They're signing Justin Holiday on the buyout market. He can shoot. He's not going to make their defense any better. As far as long-term stuff, I mean, of course, Kyrie's extension is the number one thing this offseason. After that, I think they could use a rim protector. I don't think it would hurt them. The thing there, though, is I think they're going to have to spend more picks in order to make trades. I don't know if they've got like a player who other teams would be like really, really wanting to get. Which, hey, they will have picks to move because they're going to give the Knicks their last pick after this season. And then after that, the only other pick you've traded is that 2029 one to the Nets. And they've got tradable salary. I mean, Bertans' contract is an obvious one to imagine in moves for them. But again, if that's the main money part of the deal, then you're going to have to include picks. And, well, okay, we'll see what happens. But again, this is off-season stuff. I guess this can lead to another conversation with Christian Wood because I've already seen a little bit of, well, now because of Luka and Kyrie, do you need Christian Wood's offense? I mean, you always need offense, right? Like having a guy who can do more than just simply dunk open stuff with Kyrie and Luka is nice. If he can pop, if he can put it on the floor a little bit. But it's clear at this point that Jason Kidd just does not love playing Christian Wood more than about 26 minutes a game or so. There was a stretch in like early January where he was touching over 30 minutes, but that was about it. I think he's still going to play. He still gets buckets. So yeah, that's about it, man. I think projecting for the playoffs, I want to do a video where I go through all the top teams and think about it and all that, but for Dallas, obviously Luka and Kyrie are scary in any game, but look, they knew what they were doing when they made that move. Like, they're going to sacrifice defense and losing Finney-Smith, sacrifice some depth for the sake of getting a second great player next to Luka. So this is just what they got to work with for the rest of the season pretty much. In the offseason, we can have other conversations, and of course Kyrie's extension is going to be the big thing, but we're not there yet.